You're watching Citizen Extra. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. We started off our bulletin this morning by the fact that MPs have been hit hardest by the SRC, which slashed the earnings of state officers. And here now is a reaction from Nakuru Town West MP Samuel Arama.
Huwezi kusema ya kwamba hii pesa wamepeana 600,000 and something. Hiyo ni pesa kidogo sana. Na mimi nakataa. Tukirudi bunge lazima tuangalie ni nini waliangalia, evaluation walifanya nini, kwa sababu a member of parliament zile kazi tunafanya ni mingi sana, apart from oversighting all the executive. Sisi pia tuko na kazi tunafanya kwa constituency. Ukiambia mbunge ati sasa wewe unataka aende kukaa kwa kamati bila kulipwa, hiyo pesa wanasema ni kidogo sana. Ungekuwa tuongezwe pesa na hiyo tukirudi pale lazima tuende turekebisha. Member of parliament ni mtu anafanya kazi ya maana. One thing Serem commission must know that a member of parliament huwezi kusema ati unaenda kukaa bunge without coming to the constituency. If for example the vehicle I have kuenda bunge na kurudi in one weekend in 10,000. If you multiply 10,000 times whatever days you unaenda bunge, otoanisha na ile pesa anasema, kwa hiyo 600 and something you are going to take pay as you want, I think this is just joking. That is not acceptable. We are not going to take that money. Kwa sababu hata Seremu mwenyewe yeye anaenda kupata pesa mingi kuliko hata sisi. Hatuwezi kukubali hiyo pesa kidogo namna hiyo. Lazima tulipwe mileage, lazima tulipwe sitting allowance. Ile allowance zote zilikuwa hapo, lazima tulipwe hiyo. Hiyo siwezi kukubaliana naye, kwa sababu mimi najua ile kazi tunafanya ni kazi ya muhimu ya nchi.
Those there reactions already coming in from a member of parliament. So we're already seeing signs of resistance. I'll start this conversation with you, Cynthia. Already signs of resistance coming in there, and I suppose this will be replicated across the board. Before we talk to you, Cynthia, let me introduce the other guests in studio. Once again, this morning we're joined by Odoyo Owedi, who is a political analyst. Also with us, Cynthia Mutere, political analyst, Vincent Kimosop, a governance analyst, and Jarvis Bigambo, who is a governance analyst. Good morning, and thank you for being with us, Cynthia. This reaction from this member of parliament, and of course earlier on in the first hour of Citizen Extra, we had gotten reactions from the Mwananchi who are questioning the timing, others who are saying this might never see the light of day because this is not the first time we've seen an attempt to reduce salaries of state officers. Your reaction to this?
Thank you, Lillian. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Once again, we are seeing something that we actually have gone through. In 2013, I think SRC did come 3 weeks to the general elections with the same program. They announced to us the salaries of public officers, especially those who are going through the elective process, and really the expectations that they should have as they were coming into office. And we know that the first thing that they did was, when they came into office, then the first thing on the table was their welfare, which of course we saw civil society come up against with the MPigs and the demonstrations of the pigs and the bloody streets in Nairobi. Of course, the civil society showing their disgruntlement against that. And we believe that this is another play at that, but maybe the institution now will get more teeth. Once they gazette what they have proposed, then we are hoping that there will be political goodwill from both sides of the political divide, that the president and his cabinet will give it the full weight of support. And we believe that since the NASA campaign has been basically the cost of living, that they would support these recommendations. What we don't want to see as the voter, now leaders like now the one in Nakuru who are coming out to say, no, you don't know how much it costs to actually be a member of parliament. But what we are saying that then the money that is saved will go into maybe what NASA has been proposing, the 45% increase, so that members of parliament and public officers don't have to be doing the welfare duties of the community, but then monies are put in a central place, devolved to the county government, and then there is service delivered to the people, insurance for the people, health insurance, and of course there's always that funeral cost that people like to hamp about, that they're helping people in funerals. So we don't want to see that we are having too many bad apples come into the 12th parliament, because then we're already seeing that the 12th parliament, the first thing that they're going to be putting on the table is their welfare, as we've seen with that member of parliament from Nakuru, and that's very unfortunate.
Vincent.
Thanks, Lillian. I think one of the moments that's really, as a Kenyan, that I'm proud is when we see that our institutions rise to the occasion and execute their constitutional function. And really yesterday what the SRC did is something that as Kenyans we should be proud of. Article 10(2) of our constitution gives the 17 national values. One of them is the rule of law. The rule of law, the law establishes the SRC so that the environment whereby people participate in the determination of their remuneration is actually institutionalized in this constitutional body. You remember in 2013, as Cynthia has pointed out, the SRC was actually bullied on the floor of parliament by some of the members who across the aisle actually came together to ensure that SRC gives way. We hope that the 4 years that SRC has been in office, they've gone through this process, that they've actually grown the teeth, and that they will stand firm, gazette this, and ensure that they are implemented to the letter. I also take this opportunity to appeal to all the presidential candidates. This is really where we now say, when you have your proposals in a manifesto, how do you ensure that they are implemented? So it would be good for His Excellency the President to throw his weight behind this, and this will ensure that the political capital for the rollout of this is actually is gained. The same to Raila Odinga and all the other we'll call 5 presidential candidates. The beauty of it is that it is something that was arrived at through a process. I can assure you, Lillian, come Parliament, and as you can see, even the first item that was introduced here is that a member of Parliament has already said this will not see the light of day. Now, the challenge is that will be the 3rd agenda item after this. They are sworn in, they've elected a speaker. I can tell you the first motion, possibly, or the 4th, will be that we need to review our salaries. It will be good to have gathered the political ground in ensuring that political parties do not support this before we go to the elections.
And you know, for those that are reading political mischief into this, Odoyo, 27 days to the election, why now and not sooner? And also, you know, just borrowing from what Vincent has said there, that indeed that this will be the first item that members of parliament will be deliberating on.
Even though this is a deliberate action by a body charged with regulating salaries, I of course see a political motive behind it, to save Kenyans 8 billion in the next financial year. However, you can see, as my colleagues have already said, MPs will go into parliament and their first action will be to reverse this. But one thing I must say also is, besides this being a political game, it is going to get the MPs to waste so much time haggling over this for a longer time when we have more important things. Also, we must also know that there are more places where we could save this country money, especially in corruption. We would save much more money in corruption than trying to do something that will be reversed the next day.
Javas, are you of the view that there was some interference, that the SRC did not make this decision on its own, that this was informed perhaps by some interference from one of the political divides, for lack of a
This is definitely you know when you have a government that has a majority in the National Assembly that controls all decision-making organs of the country, nobody, including those that we say on paper are independent, can act without a push from that government.
No,
I was directing that question to Jarvis actually.
When Odo responded, I didn't know whether he had been baptized this morning as Jarvis. However, I think to respond directly to Lillian, I wish to take up this debate from the premise, as Abraham Lincoln said before me, that right makes might. Question is the ASRC right and justified to make the kind of proposals that they did yesterday? I answer in the affirmative. And does the saving of these 8 billion shillings lift the load of stress on the shoulders of the average Kenyan? The answer is in the affirmative. Now, as to whether SRC was manipulated or guided or encouraged to make this kind of proposals and play into the political games at the moment as we are hurtling into the next general election, well, it remains a question that fits well in the sea of speculation. Now, the thing is this. I think what is proper, what is fitting, and as we have heard from the leading political sides in this country, even through their manifestos, etc., the question is, would it make sense for NASA on their side and Jubilee on their side, yes, even in the interim, to lend some weight to SRC only to reverse this the moment the election is done? That would be a question of playing political games with the Kenyans. And so, looking at, for example, our gross national product, as much as well we can look at the GDP of this country, one would say that it does not make much sense for that legislator from Nakuru who has weighed in on this issue and said that because of the work that the National Assembly or the members of the National Assembly do, that the salary proposal for them should be revised upwards because of the work that they do, the sitting allowances, etc. I think time has come that we as citizens in this country, professionals, yes, and looking at the statistics and the direction that this country is headed, the weight of the wage bill as well, to realize that it must not be particularly lucrative for one to go to parliament merely to earn a huge salary. So I think the SRC has done a good job, a very good recommendation. Question is as to whether these will hold for long.
Right.
And also the kind of saving of the 8-point-something billion shillings that the SRC has indicated. It must not just be, placed in the parking lot as having saved 8 billion shillings. We need to see right away how this money is going to move into various sectors within the various budget lines, so that that money does not seem to be just in the parking lot, so that when those parliamentarians get back into office, they want to go back and put their hands in the cookie jar and see how they can increase their emoluments.
And now just moving this conversation to the political implications, 27 days to the polls, Cynthia, whether this will work for or against Jubilee's re-election. We heard from a cross-section of residents in various parts of the country that they were reading political mischief into this, and particularly alluding to the fact that the ruling administration was behind this current move. Do you think that this will cost Jubilee its re-election?
It could be a narrative that wants to resonate with the population, to give it a populist kind of campaign, where, of course, the NASA's major campaign theme has been the cost of living. So if then Jubilee takes then a play on that, would be now to reduce public officers' fees. But then NASA would then start interrogating the whole deal that SRC did. Why would they scrap allowances from the governors and deputy governors and leave allowances for the president and his deputy? And I mean, both of them are heads of national government or county government, and interrogating some of the proposals that are in there, then you'd still find that both sides of the divide are neither winners nor losers. They're politicians who are, we know, go into parliament and they would want to be pulling on their side. But what then the citizen is looking for is that if this independent institution now has made these proposals, of course they have come up with these proposals from a comparative analysis of what's going on in the region and internationally with our GDP and just how much should be our expenditure, and they say that is going to be moved to development, then the Mwananchi on the ground wants to see that that money is brought to county governments for the implementations of services that are really needed there.
And Vincent, I see you reacting to what Cynthia has said. And previously, just taking you back because this has not been the first attempt to slash these salaries. Taking this back to when the president and his deputy had pledged to take lower salaries, and criticism coming after that from the opposition that this was an extremely populist move. Are we seeing a replica of what happened back then? Is this actually going to ever see light of day?
Lillian, I think sitting here as an analyst and really as our policy experts, it is important for us to benefit from history. If you remember, in 2013, there was a national conference I believe at 2013-2014 at KICC. Another time, it was convened by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and the agenda was the National Wage Bill. There were different scenarios, percentages of how much the recurrent expenditure together with our salaries are taking from the domestically generated income through KRA, and also really that we are spending a lot of money on wages and salaries and our allowances. How do we ensure that the target of less than 30% is attained? We are nearing 50%. So this has been something that has been in the works, and irrespective of whatever government was there, when we passed the 2010 Constitution, which established the SRC, the job evaluation, this process was going to commence. And I can tell you, even if we will have NASA government in power, assuming they win the elections, this conversation is something that will take place. So I think it is fair for us to isolate the politics, which I know has implications, and ensure that we really see what is being addressed. In this situation, there is the issue of wage bill. Now, the importance of having political capital to support this process is ensuring that we are actually operating sustainable budgets. I know there are unwritten job descriptions that members of parliament perform. For example, welfare. Many members of parliament are not elected because of their legislative, representative, or even oversight role. It is how many bridges did you build? How many children did you educate? Which really are outside the roles and functions of a member of parliament. For me, if I was advising members of parliament, is to ask SRC when they're engaging in this debate, how much did they interrogate or beyond the written job description of a member of parliament to arrive at their decision. And then also my appeal to the members of the media is that the focus so far is only on members of parliament, that is the senators and the National Assembly. This thing has affected the president, the deputy president, governors, permanent. Let the conversation be whole.
And Odoro, still on the same, reactions on the ground once again, and indeed the narrative across the country is the fact that the ballooning wage bill poses a real threat to the economic stability of the country. But then again, critics also arguing that the Jubilee government should blame itself for all these woes. So going back to its re-election coming after the SRC cutting these salaries, do you think that this move serves in the interests of the Jubilee government, with the narrative going around that they have put the country in this mess essentially, and also with some feeling that indeed they influenced this decision by the SRC and are therefore essentially trying to clean up shop?
I think we are giving too much attention to this so-called wage bill, and we are listening to people we shouldn't listen to as leaders. What the leaders have done these days is listen to the public, the electorate out there, some who do not even understand a thing in economics. When we talk about reducing wage bill at the top, and then we are not pushing this down, when we give money to the people at the bottom of the societal pyramid, the poor, that money goes back to government almost to the last cent, because each time it circulates, the government collects taxes, and it goes back to the exchequer, and it goes back to develop the country. But this particular wage reduction is being informed by political reasons, because they know what is the word on the street. The word on the street is the political leaders are earning so much money and people are poor in Kenya. This is the reason why this has come up with such a scenario where SRC is being pushed to hoodwink Kenyans that they are doing any reductions. We know, as we have said here, that the first thing in Parliament will be that this thing will be reversed by the MPs.
I think, Jarvis, of importance is the fact that clearly all is not well in the government in as far as its coffers, and that's why we're seeing this reactionary move from the SRC cutting salaries. The economic significance of this for the nation going forward.
One, we as a country are so rich yet poor. We are so rich because we've got immense resources that are poorly managed. We are so rich yet poor in imagination because we've got leaders who think that the more money they have in their pockets at the expense of the common citizens, then that the country is doing well. And then that lends credence to the long-held perception that running for political office has got huge benefits, you know, monetary-wise. And that's the kind of narrative I think that we need to see how to split right in the middle. The thing is this. I think we need to, and a departure from what my colleague and friend Vincent said earlier, that yes, there are welfare issues that members of parliament handle. Yes, that's true. But the thing is this. If we were to lend weight to that argument and sustain it, then to what extent will even that wage bill be sustainable? Because we'll want to see to what extent then does a member of parliament or a member of the National Assembly or even a senator help in terms of the villages and hamlets from whence one hails. And looking at it that way, beyond even the funeral issues, etc., helping in school fees, etc., and all the other needs of society where these leaders represent, I think in the end, the whole argument may to some great extent possibly be lost. We need to bring ourselves back to a critical argument, and this should not just be left to SRC alone. Various stakeholders, of course, need to lend weight to this. Critical economists, and various institutions within this country need to see how to back up this argument. Moving forward, beyond the argument, and I'm sure that as the President speaks today to this issue, he may possibly endorse the proposals by the SRC. It would have even been much more better to see the leader of opposition, NASA, Raila Odinga, also lending weight to this. But beyond that, the voice that has come this morning from Nakuru, that legislator, he has actually spoken on behalf of many silent voices in that August House. And that is why we are expecting that he and his legion of politicians who expect to reap immense benefits from their salaries will want to come in and go for the jugular of the SRC. But we want to see how we can give SRC a stronger backbone. We want to tell SRC this, and through the Sarah Serem, the chair, that if this time round the members of parliament will come and reverse this, then Kenyans will ask one critical question. What is the significance of the SRC if at all their proposals cannot see the light of day? And in fact, even when we look at a provision, a value, a critical value in amongst the values of our nation in Article 10, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution, sustainable development, then one wonders then to what extent does the SRC have proposals that even beyond gazettement are reversed and with the impunity that politicians will want to reverse this kind of proposal.
And Cynthia, just looking at the fact that the President is about to give a press over this matter, over the SRC, and the fact that he's likely to endorse this move by the SRC. We do not know how the opposition will react to this, but a good point there that Jarvis raised, moving forward, just looking at the next parliament, should MPs reverse this move by the SRC? It paints the SRC as toothless, and therefore, just looking at leadership in this country that is not servant leadership oriented, but looking at leadership that eyes positions more as a gravy train, just moving forward, how to change this narrative in this country?
Of course, what we're expecting in the next couple of hours or today is the President to do what he swore to do, is to uphold the Constitution and respect institutions. And of course, he's going to be reinforcing that by throwing his weight behind the SRC. Now, the question is now, if the gains that we that seem to be made by SRC's proposals are going to be reversed by the 12th Parliament or the people coming in next, how are they going to be protected by the Constitution? That independent institutions, whatever decisions that they make and they bring them out and they stand by them and they gazette them, can then the head of government make sure that it is not reversed by the legislature? And so once again it brings into question the independence of all these arms of government, the executive, the legislature, and of course the judiciary, which has been a question of debate since he made his statements on Sunday. Just the independence of these institutions and just how strong these institutions, when they make proposals and they want to steer the country in the right directions, the Constitution should be protecting them from reversing any of the decisions that they make. And so that is something that we as the voter would want to see. And of course some of these proposals were made in the manifestos that were launched a couple of weeks back, and so you'll find that as we move into this kipindi chalala salama, as you'd say in politics, these next 27 days, you'll find that the opposition then is going to be speaking, maybe just putting a spin to just reinforcing what SRC had said, but maybe not in a way that now Jubilee would want to reinforce it, because now it looks that Jubilee wants to buy into now the population, telling them that they are interested in their welfare, something that they haven't done, and we haven't seen them supporting the SRC in the past Parliament to make sure that what they had already proposed was reinforced. And now 3 weeks into the election, they're trying to do this. So it's something that we are going to wait and see how the campaign now rolls that out.
But I think that argument may not actually be holding water, because the proposal, the argument being made here then would be that SRC has made these proposals at Jubilee's bidding.
Which of course that is the case.
Why didn't they do it for the past? They did it 3 weeks to 2013 election. The argument
here is that with SRC being an independent commission, as expected, having not been openly or overtly influenced, at least through the past 4.5 years, then what would be the strength behind your argument that SRC has made this proposal at Jubilee's bidding? Then, in fact, that will be puncturing even the very significant...
My argument is not that they're doing it at Jubilee's bidding. I'm just saying that the president is doing his constitutional mandate is to respect independent institutions. And that's what the Constitution says, that he would respect independent institutions to let them carry out their mandate. There's not going to be anything fancy for him to come out and say, yes, he supports this. That's what he's supposed to be doing. So basically, he's going to be doing his job.
Lillian, when the SGR was launched, I remember Jubilee used it and says, this is our flagship project. And I remember the NASA presidential candidate saying, using a metaphor that if you marry a woman who is already pregnant, the child is not yours. Meaning that they conceived and actually planned for SGR. So, and you notice they said he said that they never opposed SGR. Their concern was the issue of cost. In principle, that SGR is an investment which is good for the country. So what I'm pointing out at this point is that we know the role of politics in our country and the way it sways and it plays even in policy making. That is okay. But I think let's step back, as because we are in the place of analysis, that the conversation, there is even already a national wage bill policy. There's a policy that was done and actually has been ratified, and it was conceptualized under this conversation on how do we ensure that we manage our salaries and wages well. So in my view, the timing of this announcement by SRC may be suspect politically, but also let's not do away with the fact that it is a process that has been ongoing. Now, if the president speaks today, and just let me pick it up from where Cynthia was, that there's been questions on the independence of our institutions, the comments on the judiciary. If he is to speak today, and since he's not spoken, one thing he should speak not as the leader of a political faction, which you know he's a candidate, but also speak as a head of state and speak as head of government. That our test is in respecting the institutions to perform their functions and really challenging the others for political capital to ensure that this thing sees the light of day. Because if Lillian, members of parliament come back next, maybe in 2 months, and they make it to water down what SRC has done, I can tell you, we are going to have challenges on labor relations. The signal will go to the unions that, hey, we need salary increase. And that might really be a problematic in macroeconomic management.
Odoye, I'll ask you to contribute to the conversation. We are just about to go live at State House, where the President is expected to speak to the media. This in reaction to Sarah Serem's cutting of salaries of state officers. Odoye, what's your take on all of this?
As we go live on air to listen to the President, we can't all sit here, very respected people, and pretend that this decision was made purely from SRE's own reasoning and thinking.
You've stuck to that. You've stuck to that from the beginning of this conversation.
What they were insisting on that this thing could have not come from the President. We have known the Jubilee government always insists on having its way around independent bodies, including Parliament itself.
No, I think that argument is not right. Because you are mounting up on the wings of speculation. And that itself, in fact, discredits independent institutions, including SRC. You see, while even the argument that the timing could be suspect, each institution that is independent must do its work according to its own schedule, according to how they see fit.
It is so not just the timing.
Maybe
it is also the way we have seen the President acting in the near past.
On what has informed your train of thought. Why are you of the opinion that this decision was influenced?
One, it is the timing. Two, we have listened to the President attack the judiciary on a decision that they made so independently. In fact, when the President talked about
the judiciary is a totally different institution altogether.
And also, you see, when we now that if we were to sustain my brother that argument that all the decisions we are seeing coming from all arms of government have been done at the behest of the Jubilee administration, then why are we even going to an election?
Yes.
Because we know very well that the elections will be done to ensure that Jubilee wins. I think it is important for us to really, the Constitution requires that we protect and we uphold the Constitution. And one of the principles, for example, of devolution, the principles that even informs our democracy is the respect for separation and independence of institutions.
And if that is the train, if you are certain that independent bodies will act fairly in the interest of Kenyans, we would not even have agents as elections are going on.
With all due respect, if that is the train of your thought, then I think your train has got no fuel.
Okay, look, and we will have
let's listen to the President, and then from what he says,
we're going live to State House now. Let's get the President's reactions on this.
Fairness and transparency for public servants. But crucially, this has been part of our design to strengthen Kenya's economy, to create more jobs, and indeed to lower prices. Another key item on the Jubilee administration's agenda has been to answer the need to compensate public servants fairly, fair framework for public pay, which would also enable the country to live within its means. As Kenyans, we have a proud history of combating problems together as one, rather than simply complaining from the sidelines. I call upon every Kenyan to support the Salaries and Remuneration Commission's recommendations and Jubilee's administration's quest to keep the wage bill at sustainable levels. The days of wasteful allowances and peculiar but inexplicable payments are behind us. Better and more prosperous days lie ahead. I commend the diligence of the Commission and its chairperson, Sarah Serem, and say that their report will go a long way in guiding and ensuring prudence in the way we manage public money. In short, your report settles these matters in the way the Constitution envisioned. Let me conclude by calling upon every public servant and state officer, and indeed every Kenyan, to support the work of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission and to abide by its guidelines. All of us in the public service must remember that this is a calling, and that is what servant leadership is about. It is about servanthood, not business. I thank you, and may God bless Kenya. Thank you very much.
Okay.
The president there reacting to the SRC's move to cut salaries of state officers. Interestingly, the president talking about servant leadership, saying that these positions are about servanthood and not business, and therefore persons eyeing these seats should not look at them as a gravy train, and indeed we now see some of these positions not being as lucrative as they would have been before this move by Sarah Serem. The president saying that this move will allow the country to live within its means. He also spoke about this being in line with Jubilee's administration's quest to keep the wage bill at sustainable levels, and also called on Kenyans to support the SRC's work. And indeed this move that was announced yesterday by Sarah Serem, which is in line with saving the economy over 8 billion shillings yearly. Cynthia, has the president spoken as a politician or as the head of state?
He speaks well. It's about servanthood and not business. And who a better example than Raila Amolo Odinga, who has gone these past few years since he retired as the former prime minister without an allowance that was due to him. He was supposed to get it, but Jubilee manipulated that and said if he would go into retirement quietly, then they would give him his money. He has opted to serve the people of this nation, forgoing not a penny, not even allowances, even a penny. And I think that is servant leadership, and he leads a brigade of people who have put out their lives to do just that. And so when we hear the president coming out and just talking about taming the wage bill, really, he should be coming out and talking about how to grow this cake that we're all scrambling to get a piece of the pie from. And really, he should be talking about the economy and how it's growing and all, not coming to reinforce how it's bringing down the... So I wouldn't give him accolades for that wonderful little pep talk that he's done up there, which is very good for him. He's doing his duty, but nothing much to write.
Yeah, and you know, a very succinct, short message there from the president, you know, just basically applauding this move by the SRC. Does this confirm your fears or your allegations that indeed that this was a political move by the SRC, that this was influenced by the ruling administration?
Lillian, it does confirm. The line is, this is in line with Jubilee's quest to reduce the wage bill. But then, even his speech now was not necessary, because this matter will be handled by the next parliament, which may be controlled by probably NASA or Ekuru or Courts Party or whichever party or the independents. So his statement was to make people who follow him believe that this is what he believes in and it should be let to be so. If there was parliament to ratify this in the next week, then his speech was very relevant for now.
And Java, you know, this is the thing. Vincent had earlier, you know, outlined the fact that he would really love to see the president come out and speak as a head of state, as opposed to speaking as a politician and as a president that's seeking re-election. When the president says that this is in line with Jubilee administration's quest to keep the wage bill at sustainable levels, question is, you know, when you look at how brief this particular presser was, what are you reading into what the president wanted to communicate to this nation? Was it a political move? Was he applauding the move by the SRC as the president?
It's a political bill because he knows this is popular.
Odoyo,
yes.
Listening to Odoyo speak and Cynthia as well, and their attempt to throw a wet blanket at the president's statement, of course, one. So
why don't you throw accolades? Why would you now want to comment on what I have said? That is what I felt about it.
It's not about accolades.
Yeah, so why would you want to put down what I have said?
If we were to throw the light of reason on the entire effort by SRC, then it doesn't take a prophet to have, predicted that the president would make a statement in support of SRC. In fact, even if the leader of opposition, Raila Odinga, were to speak right now, it wouldn't take a prophet to also predict that Raila Odinga will support the move by SRC.
The question is, Java, was that press briefing necessary? And that's what Odoyo is asking.
It's critical for us to note the times in which we are living at the moment. We are in an electioneering period. And the president also would want to milk from every situation that would give him some political mileage and enhance his political capital.
So he has spoken.
And that is why I can tell you for sure that his statement today is a question of just trying to demonstrate that having an independent commission do what it has done, then also it lends weight to his party's ideology. But that is okay. The thing is this, even NASA right now would still speak to the same issue. What we as Kenyans...
The manifesto has already spoken to it. In the next 100 days, we're bringing it down. What would you want to hear? You've had, the Jubilee administration has had 4.5 years to have done this. Then you're having an independent institution do their job, and you're coming out making it such a big hullabaloo when they're doing their job, which you should have been doing in trying to increase instead of decreasing everybody's life.
For me, my attention is to the respect of the independence of this institution as SRC, and much more than that, the wisdom of the step they have taken and how it is likely going to make our country better, and also salvaging or taking us from the dark corner of the ballooning wage bill. That has been a very serious thing for us.
And you know, Vincent, previously in conversations we've had here in studio, analysts raised concern over the president, you know, giving very brief messages that a lot of people felt were unnecessary, going back in time when the brewery in Kisumu was launched by EABL, and then now this particular press briefing coming to the nation in response to the SRC slashing salaries of state officers. For you, you had raised issue with whether or not the president will speak as a politician. What did you read into this message?
Lillian, I think since I spoke before the president spoke, I challenged the president and all the other the 7 presidential candidates to come out clearly on this issue. And actually, if you remember, I appealed that they should all speak in the affirmative. Lillian, I think I will not equate the presser that the president has done today to the one that of the launching of the EABL expansion. Purely the one for EABL expansion was a political posturing and positioning. I think on this one, I will commend the president. I think he was writing the speech. I would not include the Jubilee narrative there, because there you now bring in the politics of who should get a mileage. I think Lillian, as an analyst, one of the things that we always are supposed to do is that if a policy is right, let's all support that policy, irrespective of our political affiliation. The policy in conversation, in discussion currently, is addressing with the wage bill. And when you look at all the data from IMF, from the World Bank, even from our own institutions, is that our wage bill is getting to unsustainable levels. And the wisdom of Kenyans in 2010 was that let us have a constitutional body that will be responsible for dealing with wage bill. And that is what SRC has done. So irrespective of our political affiliations, I think it is important as Kenyans. One of our national values is patriotism. In our national anthem, we talk about plenty be found within our borders. This plenty we are talking about is also ensuring that it is shared and shared equally. The issue of intergenerational equity, that is part of the principles of public finance. So on a policy position, I think the President has hit the right note. On the politics of who should get credit for what, that is a political conversation, and we can have it on another day. And the situation currently is that the policy directive is that wages need to be managed, and on this I agree with the policy position of the President. And
I'll get your final remarks as we end this news hour. Our second hour of Citizen Extra is coming to an end. Cynthia?
We do support the policy direction of having that wage bill, of course, measured in a way that resonates with our economy, really. But one thing, once you go into now interrogating, like I gave the example of why slash allowances for governors and deputy governors and not the president and deputy president, I want to bring out the point that Odo, I think, touched about. When you make those savings, what are you going to do with that money? Once again, it's going to go into leakages in government where they're spending. I remember when they did the fuel guzzlers and they brought down all that, you still find there's a lot of wastage in government. And so it's going to be important to see that these savings, how are we going to utilize them, and then how will they really now come down to impact the life of that person. These savings need to reflect in our lives in bringing down the cost of living.
I'll get your final remarks, gentlemen, but before that, let's cross over to Old Town Mombasa. We are live in Mombasa County, where once again residents there are reacting to the slashing of salaries of state officers, and of course also reacting to the President's endorsement of this move by the SRC. Let's listen in.
Kwa majina kamili naitwa Asman Timbaland. Ni aspirant wa mji wa Kale, Kizingo Ward. Ni hii tume ya mishahara tumefurahia kwa wazo lao zuri ambao wameleta jana. Sisi kama aspirant tungeomba ama tunasema hii tume kwa nini haikuja wakati wa serikali ilivyoanza 2013 wakaanza hiyo kazi, kwa sababu ilikuwa katiba ilikuwa ndio mpya, mambo ni mapya. Kwa nini hii tume inaletwa wakati wa mwisho wa uongozi wa ukatuzi? Na mimi nasema ni wazo zuri sana kwa hii tume kuteremsha mshahara, pia itafanya hali ya uchumi ya wananchi ishuke chini, na pia italeta manufaa na italeta walala hoi pia waweze kujidumisha kimaisha. Mimi nasema kitu kingine muhimu sana, hata ikiwezekana iangaliwe hawa magavana, hawa wabunge, kama inawezekana wages za upande mwingine pia zipunguzwe, ndio sasa walala hoi na wananchi wa Kenya wote wawe wanaishi katika maisha yale ya kawaida ambayo tuliyatoka enzi zetu za ukoloni za nyuma. Na ningependa kusema hii tume isirudi nyuma hata kidogo, isirudi nyuma, waendelee hivyo hivyo, na sisi tumeunga mkono wapunguze mshahara. Tuko tayari. Kama wewe ni kiongozi wa kikweli, utaongoza wananchi ya kuwa wataka mshahara, utaongoza wananchi kwa kujitolea, utaongoza wananchi kwa kusema hati umeenda pale kwa sababu ya tamaa. Sisi kama viongozi tunatakana tuangalie haki ya mwananchi kwanza kabla ya mambo mengine yote. Mimi nasema hii tume iendelee na isirudi nyuma tena. Asanteni.
Mimi nimefurahia kwa tume kupunguza hizi mishahara, kwa sababu uchumi wa nchi umedhoofika sana, na mwananchi kidogo atafaidika kwa hayo mapato. Bilioni 8 si kidogo, itasaidia wananchi kwa gharama yao.
Mimi kwa majina naitwa Adam Ali Juma Mpenzi. Ningependa, hii tume imefanya kazi nzuri sana, lakini ningependa ifanye kazi nzuri zaidi ya hapo, kwa maana mishahara ikikatwa ikiwa chini zaidi, wabunge na makansela at least wengine watatafuta kazi za kufanya, kwa sababu hii mishahara ikipunguzwa zaidi, pia sisi kama wananchi tutakuwa na nafasi ya kupata hela kwa njia nyingine. Lakini kiwango kikubwa cha hela kikienda kwa wasimamizi au viongozi wa nchi hii, sisi ndo tunaumia. Na tunataka ikiwezekana, hata ikiwa president apatiwe 50,000 peke yake, ili hela nyingine ziingie katika mifuko ya wananchi. Asanteni sana.
Kwa majina ni Ismail Suleiman. Lakini hata wakipunguza, ni mara ngapi wamepunguza, lakini bado wakiingia wanaendeleza kuiweka juu. So hii kupunguza haina issue. Pengine waangalie mbinu ya kuangazia wananchi iwe sawa, lakini kupunguza, mara ngapi wamepunguza na wale wakiingia wanaiweka juu. Sasa hata sasa wakipunguza, wale watakapoingia wataipeleka juu kama msimu uliopita. Sasa sioni haja hata wakipunguza, hakuna chenye yatusaidia sisi kama wananchi.
Kwa majina naitwa Shimai Fuad. Mimi napendelea sana wazidi kupunguziwa, ili wananchi wasikie raha, wananchi waendeleze maisha yao kwa uzuri na kila kitu kwa salama kwa wananchi. Asante.
And we continue to get reactions from Wananchi across the country. This after the SRC slashed salaries of state officers. And, you know, Odoyo, we also want to get your closing remarks on this issue. You hold the opinion that this decision was influenced, and that indeed the integrity and independence of the SRC has been compromised. As we conclude this discussion, your thoughts?
My take on this still remains, it still stands, even after the president's endorsement of the action by the SRC. We can't have a president who is all the time endorsing or castigating independent bodies. That would be tantamount to micromanaging the country.
But we also have an opposition that has castigated independent bodies. When you talk about the ruling administration castigating the judiciary, for instance, we also do know that time and time again the opposition has also threatened to boycott the elections and essentially threatened the courts.
When their time comes, I will not agree with them either. But we cannot agree with the president when he goes and attacks the the courts, which is independent. Then he comes now endorsing this. I remember there was a time he also hijacked a report from the EACC, came, announced it at State House, and now he's taking credit that he asked those people to go home. They would go if they were going to be charged anyway. So I think this is a political announcement. But nevertheless, I know NASA will also endorse it because it is politically right to do so.
Well, first, our country needs an economic healing, and we are taking the right medicine at the right time. Our encouragement would be that the SRC and my fellow citizens should stay firm and in fact castigate politicians who will want to come into office and see how to reverse this. We need to live within our means. If at all reducing the wage bill that was actually skyrocketing will help us have a better nation, but much more than that, as we even compliment the SRC for having done this, we need to ask ourselves, to what extent could this fuel the corruptibility of politicians while in office, or in fact even propel them to start doing business with various arms of government so that they complement their earnings? We need to see how, one, as we reduce the wage bill, we also see how to increase accountability and cut off corruption, which is actually leading to the ailing of this nation further.
I thank you very much for your thoughts, gentlemen and lady. We've been joined in studio by Vincent Kimosop, who is a governance analyst Cynthia Motere, political analyst, also joining us this morning on Citizen Extra. Odoyo Owidi, a political analyst, and Javas Bigambo, governance analyst. Thank you very much for your time. We're back with more in our final hour of Citizen Extra this morning. Stay tuned.